If I could change one thing, I think the most important thing to improve the lives of disability would be if communities and people in general could become more aware of persons with disabilities and more accepting of persons with disabilities, because they'd realize then that they are just like you and I. It's just that they have issues which prevent them from being as able in our world than everybody else. My name is Lyndall Roman. I'm currently the chairperson for Cheshire Homes South Africa, which is the biggest organisation in this country that provides 24-hour care and accommodation for persons with disabilities, both physical and mental. And I've been involved with this organisation for over 20 years. An interesting story how I became involved with disability. I'm actually a nurse by profession, but then I went on into the world of commerce, where I was a medical rep, and then I was a trainer. Then I took time out to assist my son, who had a learning disability. And whilst I was taking time out, I started a landscaping company. And I did that for 4 years. And then sadly, my partner, who got divorced, and the company wasn't big enough to carry both of us. So I went into another business, which was conference and event organizing. Did that for 6 years. And then I unfortunately got cancer. And during that period, that company died, and I didn't really have the motivation to start it again. But I approached my accountant, who had once commented that he liked the way that I presented my figures to him, and asked him if I could have a job. And he ummed and ahed for a while and then took me on as a bookkeeper. I didn't know a debit from a credit, but over the next 4 years or so, he trained me, and I ended up running his accounting department. And I have a brother who was born with cerebral palsy and was living in a home called the Ann Harding Cheshire Home, which is in Randburg, South Africa. And he was the most independent person living in the home until one afternoon he fell and broke his neck and became a quad. And prior to this, I used to fetch him on a Saturday or Sunday and take him out for lunch. But suddenly he was confined to bed. And instead of being able to take him out, I used to have to come into the home to visit him. And I recognized that the home really needed some help. And with all the skills that I had gathered over the years, I recognized that I could help them in various areas of the home. And I started off with the gardens. I then got involved with the bookkeeping and accounting, and designed their accounting system. From there, I was appointed as treasurer for the organization, and then I was appointed as chairperson, and I sat in the chair for several years, about 8 years in fact. And then I stepped down. I felt that we needed new blood in the block. But they called me back subsequently to be involved on the board again, and I've been in the chair ever since. And during that period, I've been able to assist them with all the conferences that we've held because of that experience. As a professional nurse, of course, I'm also able to understand the role that the nurses play and how significant it is and how difficult their responsibilities are. So ironically, all the skills that I've had gathered over the years, I was able to use under one roof at the Ann Harding Cheshire Home. And it's been a very exciting journey. Well, the motivation came from the fact that my brother lived here, and that I recognized that I had the skills to improve the quality of life for not only him, but for the other 40 residents that live here too. And it is a very happy home from home, of which we're very proud. And thanks to a wonderful team of people that have worked alongside me over these years. Cheshire Homes is actually affiliated to an international organisation which started in England, the Lyndall Cheshire Disability Foundation, which was started by a pilot, Leonard Cheshire, who flew in the Second World War and was one of the most decorated pilots. And Cheshire Homes South Africa started in this country over 50 years ago. It started in KZN, and the first home in South Africa was Queensborough. We now have 15 care homes in the country, 24-hour care homes, as well as outreach programs. And the 24-hour care homes offer accommodation and care for over 600 persons with disabilities, both adults and children, and both physical and mental disabilities. Sadly, the acceptance of persons with disabilities in South Africa is not up to standard at all, especially in the rural areas where often these people are hidden away and tied to their homes so that they don't bring stigma to the families. There is a gradual improvement in acceptance of disabilities thanks to education, but that's more in the urban areas than in the rural areas. And it's through the schools who offer, who invite delegates from organizations like ours to come and speak to the children. But we still have such a long way to go. From a government point of view, I have been very disappointed. As an NPO, we've put up our hands to assist the government to achieve their mandate. It is their mandate to care for vulnerable persons, which include children, the elderly, and persons with disabilities. But so often they don't walk the walk, but only talk the talk, and in some instances even use our vulnerable people to obtain political points. So there's still a huge need for the government to commit, as they should, towards the care of these people. Sadly, over the years, instead of seeing an improvement in the funding of disability, I think there's actually been a gradual decline, especially from a government point of view. Every time I read the service level agreements, there's actually a comment, what would you do if government could no longer support you? And it just seems that font has grown every year, that the likelihood of them withdrawing funding is becoming, quite real. And in fact, just recently, the Premier of Gauteng decided that he would take all funding from the aged, children, and persons with disabilities away and redirect those funds to other areas of need. And this has caused a complete breakdown of communication between Gauteng disability and the NPOs who have been there to support them all along. So my wish is that the premiers of the different provinces show more interest in a mandate that is of so much significance to these, not only the vulnerable people, but their families who are battling to support them and give them the care that they need. The average costs of caring for a person with a disability on a 24-hour basis is in the region of about 6,500 rand. And the homes are not able, those homes which cannot get extra funding are really battling because the government gives them their SASSA grant, which is just over 2,000 rand per person. That's the disability pension. And then added to that, the homes can apply for subsidies, which vary from one province to another. But the average subsidy per person is about 2,500 rand. So that's only 4,500 rand. So you're 2,000 rand a month short every month. And some of the homes, the support that they get is not even 50% of the salary bill. Without food, without transport, without anything, security, insurance. So they are desperately underfunded by the government, just for basic needs. My hopes for disability internationally would be that more and more people become more accepting of persons with disabilities and accept that they have the same needs and aspirations and desires that all of us have. And then locally, I would hope not only awareness, but that, as I've said earlier, that the government, put their money where their mouth is and protect these people and support them as they would support their own families and children. I mean, for instance, have wheelchair-friendly buses so that they can actually catch a bus and go to work. An interesting thing which I might just mention is that people don't really have disabilities. It's the environment which has produced obstacles, which creates an environment which is disabled, if you like, for the person. We've labelled these people, but in fact, it's just because they can't live in the environment that we choose to live in, that makes them disabled. How can the average South African become involved? To educate themselves in one way, to have a better understanding of the challenges which people with disabilities face, so that they in turn can provide assistance and support and care without being creating a feeling of subservience or dependency, but to rather encourage people with disabilities to have big dreams and follow them and find ways of overcoming the obstacles which the rest of us put in their way. As a lasting message, I would like to encourage communities, schools, churches, and the country to become more understanding, better educated, and to give greater support so that these people can become inclusive and benefit from all the opportunities that persons that are fully able have in their lifetimes. So come, let's get together, let's stand up, and let's do the best we can for these very deserving beneficiaries.